Very recently, I have come across this notification on M.Ed entrance. As an educational practitioner, I know the importance of solving previous year question papers. So, in collaboration with The Masters Education, we are presenting you this video. Our first question is, the source of the Vidya ya Vimuktaye is, and the options are Vishnu Purana, Shiva Purana, Mandaka Upanishad and Kena Upanishad. And the right answer here is Vishnu Purana. But let's try to understand some more about this question. Sa Vidya ya Vimuktaye means knowledge is one that liberates, as it is cited in Vishnu Purana slokas. We are also attaching the entire sloka for your reference. Coming to the next question, which of the following commission or committee suggested silent meditation as part of moral values? And the options are Secondary Education Commission, University Education Commission, Yashpal Committee and Indian Education Commission. And the right answer here is University Education Commission. But let's try to understand what is a commission and what is a committee. A commission is a government statutory body that forms a commission. A statutory body is an act of parliament which holds legal power. An example can be UPSC. So here one of the example for commission is Kothari Commission, which is created for the educational purpose. And coming to the committee, it is created by a non-governmental body created for some specific purpose. One example can be Yashpal Committee. You can also see ad hoc here. Ad hoc is for some temporary purpose or for a specific duration of time they created. Moving to our third question, Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan is a centrally sponsored scheme launched in, and they have given 2013, 2012, 2010 and 2015 as options. So this particular scheme is launched in the year 2013. But let's try to understand what is a centrally sponsored scheme and what is Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan. Centrally sponsored schemes are like they're directly implemented by state governments but are having some defined shareholding of sponsorship by central government. Some examples can include National Educational Mission. Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan is also part of it, and we also know Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, teachers training and adult education. We can also see one more example as integrated child development services, wherein we have directly gone through the Anganwadi services at village level. We have taken this reference from Niti Aayog reports. Coming to the Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan, it aims to provide some strategic funding to eligible state higher educational institutions, and the funding flow is like from the central ministry through the state governments or union territories to the state higher educational councils before they reach to some identified institution. And there are many objectives and other important components mentioned in the reports of Government of India's Department of Higher Education websites. You can go and refer to that website for more information on this. Moving to our next question, educational philosophy is, options are speculative, normative, both speculative and normative, neither speculative nor normative. If you see the option 4, neither nor, it means it's not speculative, it is not normative. People usually confuse between neither nor and either or. So the option here is speculative and normative. Let's try to understand the answer for this in a more detailed way. We have functions of educational philosophy as 3: speculative, normative and critical. Let's try to understand this in a brief way. Speculative function of educational philosophy deals with the actuality and existence of active sense. Coming to the normative function of educational philosophy, as the name says, it deals with norms, goals, and standards of education. Coming to the last one, critical function of educational philosophy, as the name says, it criticizes, evaluates, and gives a conclusion. Moving to our fifth question, Albert Bandura is associated with which of the following? And the options are cognitive theory of development, social learning theory, psychosocial theory of development, and behavioral theory. Here, Albert Bandura is associated with social learning theory. Let's see who was Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura was a Canadian American psychologist. He was also a professor of social science in psychology at Stanford University. He was known for his works for social learning theory and social cognitive theory. Let's try to understand this social learning theory by taking a simple classroom example. Social learning theory has four major components in it. First one is attention, second one is retention, third one is reproduction, fourth one is motivation. So, here let's take an example of a child sitting in a classroom and listening to his teacher. So, the attention part can be the observer, like here the child paying attention to the class. Retention here would be what he remembers from the class. Reproduction can be whatever he have listened and paid attention to, if he is able to perform that particular thing in his examination. And the motivation is the rewards and punishments that follows the behavior. Let's also look at some of the development theories of psychology. Cognitive theory of development is developed by Piaget. Psychosocial theory of development is developed by Erik Erikson. And the last one, behavioral theory, is by Skinner. It's always better to recall all these theories, or at least the major steps of these theories, for the better understanding, and you can also answer in a better way in your examination. Stay tuned for the next episodes. Thank you for watching Samachar. Welcome to episode 2 of 2023 question paper analysis of M.Ed entrance. In this episode, let's try to analyze few more questions as we have done in our last episode. Hope you all have watched it. Coming to our first question today, which were the residential places of learning in ancient Vedic system in India? And the options are Gurukuls, universities, viharas, and pathshalas. And the correct answer here is Gurukuls. But let's try to understand what are Gurukuls, universities, viharas, and pathshalas in a bit detailed way. Gurukuls are also known as ashrams, which were the residential places for learning. These were usually named after sages. They are situated in forest and peaceful surroundings wherein hundreds of students used to learn together in Gurukuls. The best part of Gurukuls is women also had access for education during that early Vedic period. Moving to universities and viharas, universities are usually higher educational institutions where students study for higher degrees or academic research can be done there. Coming to the viharas, they are known as monasteries, which were these places set up for Buddhist monks and nuns to meditate, debate, and discuss with the learned. And there is also a quest for knowledge during that period. Coming to Pathshalas, they are like schools which we are seeing at this current century. Moving to our next question. According to which perspective, education is the manifestation of innate perfection of the individual? And the options are pragmatist, realist, naturalist, and spiritualist. Before understanding the answer, let's try to understand who are pragmatists, realists, and naturalists. Pragmatists are a person who is guided more by practical considerations than the ideals. Realist beliefs is more on logic, critical thinking, scientific method to teach for students. Coming to the naturalist, it is more of based on natural world centric thing. where it is used as primary source for learning also. And the correct answer here is spiritualism. Moving to our next question. At what stage of cognitive development does the ability for abstract thinking and scientific reasoning develop? And the options are pre-operational stage, sensory motor stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. Let's try to understand which cognitive development theory they are talking about. Here they are talking about the Piaget theory of cognitive development. Now let's see the different stages that are involved in Piaget's theories to answer this in a more effective way. Piaget's theories have four stages, wherein first is sensory motor stage, second is pre-operational, third concrete operational, and fourth is formal operational. At sensory motor stage, there is a coordination between senses and motor responses, and children will also have sensory curiosity about the world. In pre-operational stage, they'll develop symbolic thinking, and conversation imagination will also develop. In concrete operational stage, concepts related to concrete situations are more strong, wherein in formal operational stage, theoretical, hypothetical, abstract logic and reasoning will develop, which is also a correct answer. Moving on to our next question. National Environmental Policy Act enacted in the year, and the options are 1976, 1978, 1970, 1988. And the correct answer here is 1970. But let's also understand some details about this policy. National Environmental Policy Act is a United States environmental law designed to promote the enhancement of the environment, and the act was passed by the US government in December 1969 but enacted on 1st Jan 1970. So there might be an expectation of question ki when this act was passed, so the answer will be 1969 and enacting will be 1970. We also have preamble for this act to declare national policy which will encourage productive and enjoyable harmony between man and his environment, to promote efforts which will prevent or eliminate damage to the environment and biosphere and stimulate the health and welfare of man, to enrich the understanding of the ecological systems and natural resources important to the nation, and to establish a council on environmental quality. Let's all take a stand of this preamble in our daily lives. Moving on to our next question. In order to make the process of teaching learning of social science participative, there is a need to introduce debate and discussion in the classroom. So this approach will include lead to a lot of noise in the classroom and disturb to neighboring classes too, keep both the learner and teacher alive to social realities, lead to waste of time of the students and teachers. And the fourth option is both 1 and 2. And the correct answer here is keeping both the learner and teacher alive to social realities, which is a commonsensical part. Moving on to our next question. Identify the legendary Indian grammarian. The options are Panini, Jivaka, Chanakya, and Sushruta. Here the answer is Panini. He is the legendary Indian grammarian. But let's also see about some other great personalities mentioned here. Panini was a great logician, Sanskrit philologist, grammarian, and also a revered scholar in ancient India. Moving to Jivaka, he was the personal physician of Buddha and the Indian king Bimbisara. Now let's try to see about Chanakya and Sushruta. Chanakya was an ancient Indian polymath who was active as a teacher, author, strategist, philosopher, economist, jurist, and politician. And we have also seen many things about Chanakya as Chanakya Niti and all. Coming to Sushruta, he is the listed author of Sushruta Samhita, a treatise considered to be one of the most important surviving ancient treatise on medicine, which is also considered as foundational to Ayurveda. We hope you are enjoying this episodes on question paper analysis. Stay tuned for more episodes. Thank you for watching Samachara. This video is presented along with the Masters Education. Welcome to episode 3 of 2023 question paper analysis of M.Ed entrance. If you have not watched our previous videos, please visit our channel. And in this episode, let's try to analyze few more questions and understand some more concepts. Our first question for today is zone of proximal development is what kind of space? And the options are dynamic, rigid, mechanical, and stagnant. And the answer here is dynamic. Zone of proximal development is a dynamic space. But how many of you know what happens in zone of proximal development? So, zone of proximal development is given by Vygotsky. It's part of Vygotsky's theory. What happened in zone of proximal development means we have three phases in learning. One is a person cannot do, one is a person can do. But there is also an intermediate stage where a person needs additional support or training to do certain things. Moving to our next question, gender segregated seating arrangement and rigid gender based learning task in an upper primary schools would. Options are encourage gender equality, facilitate gender equality, lead to gender bias, and promote gender stereotype flexibility. When the question is about segregation, which means separation, where we have a classroom with girls and boys sitting separately, we'll see the gender bias only. Moving to our next question, National Policy on Education 1986 was reviewed by which committee? And the options are Adi Sheshaya Committee, Ishwar Bhai Patel Committee, Ram Murthy Committee, and Sampurnananda Committee. Here, Ram Murthy Committee is the one which reviewed. Let's see who is Acharya Rammurthy. He was an Indian social activist, Gandhian, educationist, and academic. He headed the Review Committee of 1990, which is popularly known as Rammurthy Review Committee, for evaluating the progress of national policy on education of 1986. Let's see some recommendations of Rammurthy Committee. Development of a common school system, removing disparities in education, promotion of women education, value education, early childhood care and education, right to education are some. And they also introduced Navodaya Vidyalayas and resources for education. Let's also see some other committees given in the options. Adisheshaya Committee is the one which reviewed the curriculum of the higher secondary stage in India. It also recommended introducing vocational education courses to link with education for productivity. The committee also proposed two broad learning components such as general education and vocationalized education. Moving on to our next committee, Ishwar Bhai Patel Committee, they are the one who use the phrase socially useful productive work for this subject area. And the committee also stressed upon the social aspect. It also laid special emphasis on cultural and recreational aspects of work experience. Our next committee is Sampurnananda Committee. The Central Education Ministry organized a committee for national integration in the year 1961 under the chairmanship of Dr. Sampurnanand. That is why we have the Sampurnanand Committee. The Integration Committee gave some recommendations to promote and strengthen national integration. Moving on to our next question. In which year UNESCO declared Takshashila a World Heritage Site? And the options are 1980, 1981, 1991, and 1978. And the correct answer here is 1980, where Takshashila is declared as World Heritage Site. Now let's try to understand what are World Heritage Sites. World Heritage Sites are landmarks and areas with legal protection by an international convention administered by UNESCO. It have cultural, historical, and scientific significance. The sites are judged to contain cultural and natural heritage around the world, considered to be of outstanding value to humanity. Uh, they also do this to preserve them for future generations. Now let's see what is Takshashila. Takshashila is located in Pakistan and it features a humid subtropical climate. Takshashila was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the year 1980, as we discussed. This is in particular for the ruins of the four settlement sites which reveal the pattern of urban evolution on the Indian subcontinent. And some more points about Takshashila. The serial site includes a number of monuments and other historical places of note in the area beside the four settlements. Takshashila is also home to many secondary educational institutes that offers bachelor's, master's and doctoral degrees. Moving on to our next question, a teacher must know about this in order to teach the students from various backgrounds effectively. And the options here are their academic performance, their interest, their social background, and their talent. Here, the answer is their social background. If a teacher can understand their social background, she can teach effectively. Moving on to our next question. For children in the age group of 2 to 8 years old, the pattern of development include motor, social, emotional, cognitive and communication skills, adaptability skills, language skills and writing skills. To understand this answer, we need to understand the 5 domains of development. So the 5 domains of development are social, emotional, physical, cognitive and language. Here the language skills are given as option and which is the correct answer for the question as well. Stay tuned with us for more episodes on question paper analysis of M.Ed 2023. Thank you for watching Samacharam and The Masters Education. Welcome to episode 4 of 2023 question paper analysis of M.Ed entrance. Today, let's learn some educational policies, science concepts, and theories of psychology. If you have not watched our previous episodes, please visit our channel. Coming to our first question today. Which of the following agency regulates and monitors special education programs in India? And the options are Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Ministry of Education, Rehabilitation Council of India, and National Council of Teacher Education. And the answer here is Rehabilitation Council of India, which regulates and monitors special education programs. Now let's see what is RCI. It is the apex government body which is set up under an act of parliament. This has set up to regulate training programs and courses which has targeted at disabled, disadvantaged and special education requirements of communities. This was set up as a registered society in the 1986. The act was amended by Parliament in 2000 to make it more broad-based. The mandate given to RCI is to regulate and monitor services given to persons with disabilities to standardized syllabi and also to maintain a central rehabilitation register of all qualified professionals and persons working in the field of rehabilitation and special education. This act also prescribes punitive action against unqualified persons delivering services. Coming to the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment is a Government of India ministry which is responsible for welfare, social justice and empowerment of disadvantaged and marginalized sections of the society. It also helps in the enforcement of legislation with regards to these marginalized groups to better enforce anti-discrimination policies. Moving to the next one, Ministry of Education. It is under the Ministry of Government of India which is responsible for the implementation of national policy on education. The ministry is further divided into 2 departments as Department of School Education and Literacy, Department of Higher Education. Department of School Education and Literacy deals with primary, secondary, higher education and also adult education and literacy, wherein Department of Higher Education deals with university level education, technical education and some scholarships. Moving to our next one, National Council of Teacher Education. It is a statutory body of Indian government. A statutory body, as we discussed in our previous videos, is an act of parliament which holds some legal power. This has set up under the National Council for Teacher Education Act. This is formally to oversee standards, procedures and processes in the Indian education system. Coming to our next question, sequence of subgroup of affective domain is, and the options are attending, responding, valuing, organization and characterization. Second one is responding, valuing, attending, organization, and characterization. Coming to the next one, valuing, responding, characterization, and organization. And the last one is attending, valuing, responding, organization, and characterization. Before looking at the sequence, let's try to look at the Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is a set of three hierarchical models used for the classification of educational learning objectives into levels of complexity and specificity. Bloom's taxonomy says three major domains: cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. We will be discussing about affective domain, which has 5 different categories. First one is attending, where we talk about selective selection, willingness to hear. An example can be when we meet a new person, we talk to them and we try to remember their name. Coming to the responding one, we can see active participation where learner will attend and react to a particular thing. It can be some classroom discussions. Coming to the third one, valuing. This is a stage where we value a person by attaching to a particular object, phenomenon, or a behavior. This ranges from simple acceptance to more complex. Moving to the fourth one, organization. It organizes values into priorities by contrasting different values, resolving conflicts between them. An example can be here we recognize the need for balance between freedom and responsible behavior. Coming to the last one, characterization. The behavior is consistent, predictable, and most importantly, the characteristics of learner are considered. It can be like values people for what they are, not how they look. Moving to our next question, scheme of inclusive education for disabled at secondary stage was launched on. And the options are 2009-10, 2010-12, 2007-8, 2005 and 6. And the answer was 2009-10, where scheme of inclusive education for disabled at secondary stage was launched on. Coming to the inclusive education for disabled at secondary stage, this scheme has launched from the year 2009 to 10, which also replaces the earlier scheme of integrated education for disabled children and provides assistance for the inclusive education of the disabled children in classes 9 to 12. This has now subsumed under Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan from 2013. It aims to enable all students with disabilities to pursue further 4 years of secondary schooling after completing 8 years of elementary schooling in an inclusive and enabling environment. The implementing agencies, school education department of state governments or union territory administrations, who can also involve NGOs having experience in the field of education of the disabled in the implementation. Coming to the next question, in which part of the Indian Constitution we find the provisions relating to citizenship? And the options are Part 2, Part 5, Part 6 and Part 4. Before knowing this, let's try to know some facts about Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution is the world's lengthiest constitution, which has 448 articles, 25 parts and 12 schedules. And the given options are Part 2, which talks about citizenship, Part 5, that talks about the union, Part 6 talks about the states, and Part 4 talks about directive principles. Moving to our next question, CBSE grants affiliation to schools up to, and the options are elementary level, secondary level, higher secondary level, and college level. CBSE affiliates schools up to higher secondary level, which means 11th and 12th grades. Moving on to our next question, the term anticipatory socialization is developed by, and the options are Robert Merton, Sharif, Heyman, and none of the above. Now, in this question, let's try to understand who was Robert Merton and what is anticipatory socialization. Coming to Robert K. Merton, he was an American sociologist who is also considered as a founding father of modern sociology and a major contributor to the subfield of criminology. He was also served as the 47th president of the American Sociological Association. Anticipatory socialization is actually a process which is facilitated by social interactions in which non group members learn to take on the values and standards of groups that they aspire to join, so that it will be easy for their entry into the group and help them interact competently once they have been accepted. It also involves changing one's attitudes and behaviors in preparation for a shift in one's role. One example can be old people looking for the retirement, so they try to change their attitude towards it. Moving on to our next question, the increasing concentration of toxic chemical in the tissues of organisms at successively higher levels in a food chain is called as, and the options are biomagnification, eutrophication, acclimatization, and the last option is both 2 and 3. Now let's see what is biomagnification. Biomagnification is also known as bioamplification or biological magnification, where we can see the increase in concentration of a substance such as pesticides in the tissues of organisms at successively higher levels in a food chain. If you see the image here, you have smaller fishes, a big fish, and a human being. If a pesticide is consumed by smaller fish, that will get transferred to a larger fish, which will be consumed by the human being, where the substance cannot be broken down by environmental processes, wherein this is called as biomagnification. Coming to eutrophication, it is a process in which a water body becomes overly enriched with nutrients, leading to a plentiful growth of simple plant life. One indicator can be excessive growth of algae, which you can see in the image here. This is also a serious concern for the environment, leading to the deterioration of water quality and depletion of dissolved oxygen in the water bodies. Coming to acclimatization, it is a process in which an individual organism adjusts to change in its environment, allowing it to maintain fitness across a range of environmental conditions. It occurs for a shorter period of time and within an organism's lifetime. We can see this in plants, animals, and human beings. One example of human beings can be mountaineers. Stay tuned with us for further episodes of M.Ed 2023 question paper analysis. Do let us know in the comment section if you need any other topics.